collector, will the Gardner Museum ever get its paintings back? That's a question a lot of people ask. It's a sad question, and it's a hard one to answer. You see the empty frames there still after all these years. They are a big reminder. They make you think about what was lost, they make you wonder what happened, and they make you hope. It was a long time ago, March 18th, 1990, early morning, St. Patrick's Day weekend. The city of Boston was still kind of asleep. Two men showed up at the museum. They were dressed like police officers, they talked their way in, they told the guard, Richard Abath, that they were responding to a disturbance. He let them in. That was the start of it. Once inside, things changed fast. The fake officers didn't act like police. They were rough. They tied up Abath and the other guard. They put them in the basement. Then they went to work. They spent a long time in the museum. Over an hour. That's a lot of time to be in a place like that. They took 13 pieces. A Vermeer, 2 Rembrandts, a Monet, some Degas sketches, a Chinese bronze beaker, a finial, which is like a decorative eagle that sat on a flag. These weren't just any old paintings. These were masterpieces, priceless art. The total value is now considered to be hundreds of millions of dollars. Some say over $500 million, maybe even more. It's the biggest art heist in history. And it's still unsolved. The empty frames are the most striking thing. The museum, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, keeps them there. They are not just empty spaces, they are part of the story now. They are a constant scar. They remind everyone what is missing, keep the hope alive. They are also a challenge. They say, these belong here. Bring them back. One of the most famous paintings taken was Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. It's a huge painting. It's his only seascape. It shows a boat in a wild storm. It's full of drama, and it's gone. Another Rembrandt was a small portrait, a lady and gentleman in black, also gone. And then there's Vermeer's The Concert. There are only about 3 dozen Vermeer paintings known to exist. So losing one is a really big deal. It's a quiet, beautiful painting. It shows 3 people playing music. It's simple, but it's amazing. They cut some of the paintings right out of their frames. That's a terrible thing to do to a painting. It damages them. It shows a lack of care. It shows that whoever did it wasn't a true art lover. They were after something else, money, or something else entirely, okay? The FBI got involved right away. This wasn't just a local crime. This was huge. They started investigating, but it was hard. The thieves left very few clues. No fingerprints that helped. The guards couldn't give good descriptions of the men. It was a really tough case from the start. Over the years, the investigation has gone on and on. It's been decades. People who were young when it happened are now old. Some of the people who might have known something are dead. The trail gets colder and colder with time, but the FBI says the case is still open. They still follow leads. They still try to find the art. The main theory for a long time was that organized crime was behind it. The Boston mob. That made sense to a lot of people. These were local guys. They knew the area. They had ways to move things around. They also had a reputation for violence and for keeping art isn't usually something the mob deals in. But it could be a way to make money, or a way to get someone out of trouble. There were names that came up, like Whitey Bulger. He was a notorious Boston gangster, but the FBI later said they don't think he was directly involved. Other names surfaced. Robert Guarente, Robert Gentile, David Turner, George Reesfelder. These were men linked to the mob. Some of them died in prison or after getting out. Some were questioned a lot, but none of it led to the paintings. The idea was that the paintings were used as leverage. Maybe they were collateral for a drug deal. Maybe they were a bargaining chip to get someone out of jail. If you have something worth a lot, you can use it to get what you want. But the problem with these specific paintings is that they are too famous to sell. You can't put a Rembrandt on eBay. You can't walk into a gallery and sell The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. Everyone knows them. They are too hot. So if you can't sell them, what do you do with them? They just sit there, hidden away, waiting. And that's what makes this case so strange. What good is $500 million worth of art if you can't turn it into cash? There was a big reward offered. It started small, but over the years, the museum kept raising it. Now it's $10 million. That's a lot of money. Enough to change someone's life completely. You would think that kind of money would make someone talk. Someone in the criminal underworld. Someone who knows something. But so far, no one has come forward with information that leads to the art. Not for $10 million. That says something about how tightly these secrets are kept, or how afraid people are. The FBI announced a few years ago that they had identified the organized crime network responsible for the heist. They said they believed the art was transported to Connecticut and the Philadelphia area. But they didn't name names of the people who actually took the art, and they didn't say where the art was. So even with that announcement, the paintings are still missing. The empty frames are still there. This brings up another theory, the idea that maybe the guards were involved. Richard Abath, the guard who let them in, was questioned a lot. He failed a polygraph test. But failing a polygraph doesn't mean you're guilty. It just means the test reacted a certain way. He said he was scared, he said he was high on drugs that night, he was a young guy, new to the... He never fully explained why he opened the door to men dressed as police, even though it was against museum policy. But the FBI later said they don't think he was directly involved in planning the heist. He might have been careless. He might have been a bit dumb. But not a mastermind. So, that theory mostly faded away. The weirdness of what was taken also makes people wonder. Why did they leave a really valuable Rembrandt self-portrait? It was right there. They ignored it. But they cut out a small landscape by Govert Flinck. Flinck was a student of Rembrandt's. It's a good painting, but not in the same league as the Rembrandt self-portrait. An eagle finial, a small bronze finial. Why take that? It doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the high-value pieces. These strange choices suggest a certain type of thief, not someone who knew a lot about art, or someone who was working off a very specific list. The museum itself has stayed strong through all of this. Isabella Stewart Gardner built this museum to be her home filled with all the art she collected. She made very strict rules. Nothing was to be moved. Nothing was to be changed. So when the art was stolen, the museum had to respect that. They couldn't just fill the frames with other art. That would break her rules. So, the empty frames stay, a permanent tribute to what was lost. A quiet protest. It's hard to imagine being a museum curator or director and having this hanging over you. The biggest art heist in history. Your masterpiece is gone. Every day you walk through those rooms. Every day you see those empty spaces. It must be a heavy burden. But they keep the hope alive. They keep the reward publicized, they work with the FBI, they are still trying. The decades have been full of false leads, tips that went nowhere, informants who lied, people who wanted to claim the reward but had no real information, or people who wanted to get out of trouble themselves. It's a very complicated world, the world of art crime, and the world of the criminal underground. Sometimes stories come out. Someone claiming they know where the art is, someone saying it was buried. Someone saying it was moved from state to state. There was one story about the paintings being stored in a barn in Ireland, or maybe a storage unit in Florida. These stories always grab headlines, but they never lead to the paintings. They always turn out to be false, or the leads just dry up. The passage of time is the biggest enemy. People die, memories fade, documents get lost, the people who might have stolen the art, or who knew where it was, are getting older. Many are already gone. If they die without telling anyone, the secret dies with them. And then the paintings might be lost forever. That's a very real possibility. The question then becomes, if the paintings are found, what condition would they be in? If they were cut from their frames, they would have damage. If they were stored in a damp basement or a hot attic, they could be ruined. Your art needs special conditions. Proper temperature, proper humidity. If they haven't had that, they could be decaying. That's a sad thought. To get them back, only to find them damaged beyond repair. But art is tough. Sometimes things survive in conditions you wouldn't expect. Maybe they were stored carefully, maybe the people who have them understood that they needed to be kept safe, even if they couldn't sell them. This is the hope. That they are just waiting, somewhere, intact. The reason they are so hard to get back is because of that very problem: they can't be sold. So the people who have them are stuck with them. They can't make money from them. They can't display them, they just sit there, and anyone who knows about them or has them is implicated in a serious crime. The $10 million reward is a lot, but the risk of going to prison for a long time might be even bigger for them. So they stay quiet. And the criminal code of silence is strong. You don't rat out your friends. You don't cooperate with the police. That's a rule that is very hard to break. Even for $10 million. It's a strange calculus. What's worth more? Your freedom and silence, or a huge pile of money? For these criminals, it seems silence has won so far. So, will the Gardner Museum ever get its paintings back? It's hard to say yes with certainty. The odds get slimmer every year. The list of people who might know something shrinks. The physical evidence gets harder to find. But there's always a chance. Someone might fall out with their criminal associates. Someone might get sick and want to clear their conscience. A deathbed confession, even if it's just a clue, could lead to something. A family member might find them by accident after someone dies. They might not even know what they have. That's how some stolen art has been found in the past, hidden away, then discovered by innocent people who didn't know the story. The FBI also gets new tools, new ways of looking at old evidence, new technology. Maybe something they missed back then they could find now. They still have the evidence from the scene. They still look at it from time to time, and the museum never stops trying. They want those paintings home. They want those empty frames to be filled again. They represent a wound that has never healed. The story of the Gardner heist has become almost legendary. It's a true crime mystery that has captured the imagination of people all over the world. It's been the subject of books, documentaries, podcasts. It shows how much people care about art and how much they care about justice. When you walk into the Dutch room at the Gardner Museum, where many of the great paintings hung, it's a strange feeling. There are still beautiful things there, amazing furniture, statues. But then you see the empty frames. They are like ghosts. They are huge. They are undeniable, and they speak volumes. They tell you that something important is missing, something that belongs there. And you wonder, what if? What if one day the call comes? What if someone finally comes forward with real information? What if the FBI gets a break? What if the paintings are found? What a day that would be. Not just for the museum, but for the entire art world, for Boston, for everyone who cares about beauty and history. It would be a moment of pure joy and relief, but it's also important to be realistic. It's been over 30 years. That's a very long time. The longer it goes, the harder it gets. Hope is good, but hope doesn't always mean things will work out. So, the honest answer is this: no one knows. No one can say for sure if the Gardner Museum will ever get its paintings back. It's a very difficult situation. The people who took them made sure of that. The criminal world keeps its secrets well, but the empty frames will stay. They are a promise. A promise that the museum will never give up. A promise that they will keep looking. A promise that even after all this time, the memory of those lost masterpieces lives on. And so does the hope, however slim, that one day they will return home. It's a long shot. But stranger things have happened. And until then, the mystery continues. The empty frames will keep telling their silent, sorrowful story.